Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to this video. I just wanted to do a quick one with regards to the sun and the moon, these verses, which folks often get confused about. So I'll just read through them quickly and then put them into their categories and show you why they are not the same. The first is Joel 2:31. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And Acts 2:20 is the Apostle Peter quoting that verse, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of the Lord come. Then Matthew 24:29, this is Jesus speaking, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened and the moon shall not give her light and the stars shall fall from heaven and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then Mark 13:24, but in those days, after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light. And then Joel 3:15, the sun and the moon shall be darkened and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And then in Isaiah 13:10, for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. So this is one of those areas where the King James version of the Bible is absolutely necessary because we need the closest literal translation. So the King James translators of the Bible translated literally from the Hebrew and from the Greek, word for word. So the first one, or the first two, should I say, these two are pre-tribulation verses. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood. So if you go and have a look at this verse, Acts 2:20, we're going to compare this pre-tribulation rapture verse with this post-tribulation rapture verse. And the key difference is that the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood is different from the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light. The moon shall not give her light is not the same as a blood moon. It's not the same as a lunar eclipse. So let's go and have a look at these two verses, Acts 2:20 and Matthew 24:29. So here we can see in Acts where it's talking about darkness. The word for darkness is a noun, and the word is skotos. So the sun shall be turned into darkness. So the darkness is not something which is actively taking place within or on the sun. It's being turned into darkness, which is a noun. So that is the solar eclipse. And the same, likewise, the moon into blood. So the moon is being turned into blood. The blood is a you'll see here it is a noun. So these verses which talk about the sun being turned into darkness and the moon into blood, those are the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, and what's taking place is being described by virtue of a noun. So the sun is being turned into darkness, the darkness being a noun. Then, if we look at Matthew chapter 24, verse 29, you will see that it talks about the sun shall be darkened. This is skotizo. So skotizo, this is a verb. This is actively taking place on the sun itself. The sun itself shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give light. That's because the sun has been darkened, and of course the sun reflecting its light, the moon reflecting its light off the sun, it can't do so if the sun is darkened. So the moon shall not give light because the sun itself has been darkened. This is not the same as the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood. So I hope you can see the difference there. It's very clear. And of course, the wonderful translators of the King James Bible have made it so that we can discern and detail these things looking very closely into them as the Bereans and understanding that these are not the same. So again, I'll say Joel 2 verses 31, and you can see here's another verse by Joel that these are different. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come." Those are the signs preceding the rapture, preceding the great and terrible day of the Lord, the 7-year tribulation, the tribulation. Then Joel 3:15 says, "The sun and the moon shall be darkened." The moon is not darkened in a lunar eclipse. It is made into blood. "And the stars shall withdraw their shining." That is the same as Isaiah. "For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine." There's a very clear difference between these 4 verses and the first two. The first two, again, I know I'm going to repeat this again. "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood." Those are the sun and the moon being turned into the noun, which is, it's not actively happening to the sun or the moon. It's something which is, it's being turned into. "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of the Lord come." The rest of them are all post-tribulation verses. "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened." That is the verb. It's happening to the sun itself. "And the moon shall not give her light." Why? Because the sun is darkened. "And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken." You do not want to be on earth when that is taking place. Again, the same thing in Mark 13:24. "But in those days after that tribulation," that's not the tribulation, that's not the 7 years of the of tribulation. It is after those days, after the beginning of sorrows, when you see these things begin to come to pass, when you see all these things, the troubles that are happening in the world now, all the nonsense that's taking place, that's what it's talking about. "But in those days after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened." That's the verb. "And the moon shall not give her light because the sun has been darkened." And again in Joel 3:15, "The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining." And Isaiah 13:10, "For the stars of heaven and the constellations shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine, because the sun has been darkened." So these 4 verses are post-tribulation verses. When you see "the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light," that's post-tribulation. When you see "the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood," those are the celestial signs. Those are the solar and the lunar eclipses. So I hope that's clear to you. I know that a lot of people get confused because this says after the tribulation and this says before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. All you need to do is look at the verse where it's talking about the actual darkness. One is a noun. The noun is the solar and the lunar eclipse, and the verb is happening to the very sun itself. And the effect that that has on the moon is that the moon does not shine forth its light. So the moon into blood is not the same as the moon not giving her light. So I hope that's clear. Don't be confused. Know and understand that the Bible tells us very clearly which is which, and this can be easily researched and seen by looking into the Greek and the Hebrew. So that's all I wanted to say, because I saw the comments in the section with this confusion in the comment section. And I hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll see you in the sky.